seal them up. Welcome to the Voice of Reason. This is John Martin, your host, and you already had the introductions to everybody else, but this is going to be the Chris Kirk show. He's going to start off with 3 topics.
Yes.
Right now.
Okay. Well, thank you. The first topic is a resident here in town sent me a letter saying that he was not happy with the new trash collection service. And the supposedly Waste Management was going to pick up all the recycled material at once, but that has not panned out. Instead, they recollect plastic and glass on one day and 1 week, and the next week paper, and everybody gets confused. So anyway, another thing he was complaining about was that the cost of the service seems to have gone up, and I think we have here a graph of what the cost what the budgeted cost of trash collection has been in town. And you will notice that in 2017, 18, and 19, the trash collection costs went up by only a few percent, and then all of a sudden from 19 to 20 it went from 1.8 to 2.2 million, which is an increase of almost 23%. So what happened? Well, yours truly did his homework. He always does his homework. And I went to the town manager's office, got the bids for the trash collection, and just before we do that, I think we have a copy of the relevant law, Massachusetts General Laws, Title 3, Chapter 30B, Section 5, Paragraph G. And if you look at your screen, you will see highlighted in yellow, the procurement officer shall award the contract to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder. So he who bids lowest wins the contract. So now we go to to a table that shows what the bids were for picking up trash by the various bidders. One was Casella, another one was Waste Management, and one was our former trash collector, Pellegrino. And you can see, looking at your table, how much they were charging for each of the 5 years of the contract. And if you can compare numbers or do a little quick mental arithmetic, you will notice something interesting about these numbers, which is that each year the bid by Casella was lower than Waste Management. Isn't that interesting? Why is that interesting? Because guess who got the contract? Waste Management. So, question is, why did Waste Management get the contract when Casella bid lower? And the answer is, I don't know. So somebody's going to have to ask the town manager about that. We'll get into that later. But anyway, I also got another inquiry from another...
Just out of curiosity, the question is, so this is going to be in addition to the bag fee increase that is going to be hitting us in about 50%?
50% increase in bag fees?
On the bag fees, right?
Yes, and I think there's going to be a little bit of an increase also in like bulky item pickup too, I think.
$10 to $15 on that.
Yes.
Perhaps the reason for the increase in the bag fees and the bulk pickup is because we have more money to pay Waste Management because they have a higher bid. I wonder if there's a correlation between the two.
You think so?
Maybe even a cause and effect relationship.
Maybe. But anyway, we'll have to wait for the town manager to explain. that discrepancy. Another item that came up was the concerned historic preservation. And I think that this is because yet another historic house in town may be facing the bulldozer. We got a picture here of the Nathan Howe House, which was at 661 Main Street, across the street from St. Mary's Church. And it was demoed on the 28th of September 2014, which is too bad because on Spring Street, you will see a stone marker which commemorates Nathan Howe dashing down. He was a Minuteman, and he answered the call. And there you can see the stone marker commemorating his answer to the call to serve his country, which wasn't even a country back then. But anyway, now recently there was an auction of property that had been taken for tax delinquency, and one of the properties was the Thomas Walter Ward House, which you wonder who Thomas Walter Ward is. He was the son of Artemus Ward, or one of the sons, and he was a marshal for the area, and his house is 216 years old, and it was bought at auction by Nancy Viersey of Westboro. And so the question is Thomas Ward's historic house going to be bulldozed like Nathan Howe's house was? There have been efforts in recent years to try to get some protection for old and historic houses. In 2016, at the annual town meeting, Article 22 sought to provide historic preservation for houses that were 100 years old or were associated with historically important persons or events or were architecturally significant. But that article got pulled. 2019, also at the annual town meeting, Article 25, once again, the Shrewsbury Historic Preservation Committee proposed saving 100-year-old houses, and houses that were historically or architecturally significant, but again, that went down. Finally, at 2019, at the special town meeting of October 21st, 2019, there was an Article 5 that where 35 grand was appropriated for hiring a consultant to do a survey of historic buildings and structures in town. So maybe Mr. Ward's house will get on that list before it ends up underneath a bulldozer. And final point that I want to bring, or subject I want to bring up is last night, as we're taping this on the 12th, so last night would be December 11th, there was a meeting at the library, one of two meetings. The previous meeting was on November 19th, by the town planner, the planning board, and this was concerned a rezoning of the center of town. In fact, if you want to do some sleuthing, you can go on to the town website and go to planning board, planning reports, town center visioning report of May 28th, 2019. And there you will see the limited business district in the center of town, which extends basically from the library down Maple Ave almost to Westmont Road. And the meeting concerned basically what it was about was trying to increase the density of development in that area in order to increase tax revenues, but accomplish some other things at the same time. And subjects that were brought up were increasing parking in the center of town, regulations governing the dimensions of buildings that are allowed there, and changing the boundaries of the present limited business district. Should it be expanded? Allowed uses within the district, for example, should new uses like a scientific laboratory or a veterinary service or whatever be allowed? And signage within the district. Do you want big, gaudy, lit signs, or do you want nice, discreet little signs? What do you want? And so you might wonder, well, this is not going to have any immediate effects. I mean, nobody's going to probably be bulldozing anytime soon. But there's a saying in zoning which is you get what you zone for. So if you zone for only art museums in a certain district, eventually you will get only art museums in the district. That's the way the game works. And so there were also revealingly some photographs at the meeting of what they hope this new district will eventually look like in the future when these wonderful new proposals take effect. I think the first couple of photographs we have here is nice summer photos of, you can see the sort of buildings they're looking for. Basically 2 or 3 story buildings that run the whole length of the district. So basically from the Common down almost to Westmont Road, there would be 2 or 3 story buildings, a continuous belt of them on either side. It'd be sort of like driving through a canyon almost. And that, you can see the sort of things they're thinking about there. It's, broad sidewalks, trees, and then we have a winter version of the sort of thing they're thinking about. And here, it's interesting because if you can see both sides of this, sides of the street together here, and so that gives you an idea of what it would be like to drive down Maple Ave from roughly Westmont Road to the Common in maybe 20, 30, whatever years' time. That's sort of what they're aiming for. So if you live in or around that area, you might regard this as wonderful because you live in some dumpy little house and this is a chance to sell it off and get rich quick. Or you might regard this as the most horrible thing you can ever think of, and it's going to desecrate this lovely little town. And so fear not, you can still put your 2 cents in. There are going to be a number of meetings, and you can always write the town planner, Mr. Bernie Cahill, and vent your spleen at him or heap praise upon him, whichever way you are inclined. So,
Did anything come up about the dry cleaner property? Because I know there's probably hazardous materials on that property. How bad is that situation? Does anybody really have a handle on that?
That was discreetly overlooked. I think that is, the skeleton in the closet, the elephant in the living room, or whatever you want to call it, because that, as Mr. Morgado pointed out, former town manager Mr. Morgado pointed out, a number of years ago, they had not been paying taxes on, the owner of that property had not been paying property taxes on it, in the fervent hope that the town would take it for taxes. And if the town took it for taxes, then presumably, or supposedly, this is, I don't know this for a fact, but people have said that supposedly there is dry cleaning fluid that has spilled into the ground over the years. So the groundwater might be contaminated, and then you have to clean up the mess, which means excavating out the soil, which means in turn demolishing the building. Very expensive.
And then find out if it actually spread to other adjacent properties, right?
Yeah. That's a can of worms, for
Yes,
sure.
yes. But that is.
It's more useful for fishing. I think.
And the question is, are people gonna come off of Route 9 and come back to the downtown? And that's really what they're looking to push. But is that truly gonna happen? Are there proven instances in other towns where that has happened?
Yeah, well, I think there are two things. Well, one of the points I raised was that around this limited business district, one of the great dreams is to have like outdoor dining or a pedestrian district where a lot people would walk around. There'd be a lot more foot traffic and a lot less car traffic. And the problem is the area is surrounded by single-family homes. I think there is only like one apartment complex there. I think it's called Maple Crest or Maple.
Right next to Willie's.
It's right behind Willie's Steakhouse, and so that's as far as there are a couple of other places that have like maybe one or two apartments in them, but that's about it. So you would need a lot more densely developed area around this limited business district to attract pedestrians. And the other alternative is a lot more parking so that people could park and then walk around, but there isn't a lot of room there for parking as it is. So
What would they do with the two gas stations that are there right now?
the pictures they were showing did not show gas stations. In
Oh.
fact, they were soliciting suggested uses for the area, and I said what I wrote down was I hope you preserve at least one of the gas stations, otherwise we're going to be in trouble.
All right.
So. But their drawings did not show gas stations.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lovely, series of little, arts and crafty shops, or little
Was
pizzerias.
there any mention as to what they're gonna do with the Beal School property?
That
That
is
would be part of this
that
district?
yep.
Part of
That's
the plan?
they are still wrestling with that at this point, supposedly.
But they would have to wrestle with it in a way that's going to be compatible with.
Yeah,
with
one of the things they
with-
were thinking about was expanding parking by by turning the rear of that property into a parking lot, municipal parking, to get more people to come in. So, but as I said, as they said, they were thinking this is like not just 20 years into the future, it's more like 30, 40, maybe even 50 years in the future before this.
Whatever does happen,
Yeah.
it's certainly going to impact all of the residential areas in the area from, I would say, all the way from Gage Lane is gonna be impacted by that, although you're saying it only goes down to Westmont Road. But there are homes that are still on Maple Avenue before Westmont Road.
Yes, well, one of the things I would mention real quick is that although the limited business district basically runs from like about the library down to almost down to Westmont, but not quite, there are a few businesses outside of that district. And so they were sort of wondering out loud whether you wanted to extend the limited business district. And, so it's sort of sprawl, the idea is to sort of sprawl and as I said, I'm sure there are people who on the one hand are thinking, I've got this junky old house that somebody might want to demo to turn into a suite of offices. Or conversely, I live in this lovely old house, I do not want to have a bunch of 3-story buildings around me. And so it goes both ways.
And when you look at those homes, I remember that the people that lived on Westmont Circle were very much concerned when the Dunkin' Donuts was put in, because that
Was right on their backyard.
is right in their backyard, and I know it has adversely affected those people.
Well, this would be,
This would even be more catastrophic.
this would be much.
And it also would affect the people that have homes on Maple Avenue as you come closer to the town. Because there are homes on both sides of Maple Ave as you go up to the center. And if
And
we-
they have the other side, Main
on
Street.
Main Street, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, coming on Main Street, all of those homes will be affected. And then as you come up Maple Avenue, as you go by the post office, you go down Wesleyan. They're all homes, and then there's, the first is it Knowlton, the one of those lefts there?
Yes.
All of that area is going to be.
Little teeny tiny Taft Street.
Right. So-
Okay, gentlemen, you did a good job.
Thank you, sir.
It's your turn, Rob.
Just on a happy note, all through the downtown this past weekend, I had a chance to go out and help out with the Stuff the Truck at the police station, bring a toy down. A bunch of kids were there putting it into the paddy wagon. I get a chance to take a look at the police station ports. They were open, so I just had a chance to walk in and take a look. They had a nice police motorcycle that a lot of the kids were jumping up and down on. It was interesting to see that, and just the facilities themselves, but it looked like the event went tremendously because the whole paddy wagon was completely full.
Really?
And they had a Santa Claus there, so people were taking pictures with the Claus. And also, they had another event at St. Mary's. There were 3 events on Saturday. The St. Mary's event was the Kindness Coalition, also doing a collection for homeless, and also there were vendor tables there from businesses in the area. That went very well. And then finally was the stroll on the Common. I think it was publicized by the Downtown Revitalized Committee. So they really did a nice job decorating the Common, and then some of the vendors also had spots behind the funeral home. But they had to make sure they kept the access ways clear for the fire department apparatus to go in and out.
Yes, there was a nice sort of party on the Common to celebrate the turning on of the Christmas lights on the Common, and you could get firehouse chili from the fire department, and hot dogs and other little goodies, and I will not mention a certain person who got 2 portions of the chili, but
It was a well-coordinated event.
Oh, yes, it was nice.
Congratulations to everybody who participated.
well attended too. Yes, nicely done.
Garabedian, why don't you talk about wireless devices now?
It was a few months ago, Rob and I attended a meeting that discussed the enhanced use of wireless devices in the schools, and also how that's going to have wireless devices just all throughout our community, and I suppose everywhere. And they focused upon the physical problems that could cause. And they mentioned how people have their, I call them devices, whatever they be, whether it be cell phones or whatever the other machines are, as I refer to them. That a woman that would have these on, and they would wear it in pockets anywhere that's near the upper part of their body, how that could, they have shown that that causes brain cancer.
Breast cancer.
Breast cancer. They also had said that also by holding it very close to ear for certain long periods of time, cumulative effect is going to be brain cancer. Also for men that wear these in their pockets next to the groin, that could cause problems in the genital areas for men. So this is something that has become, I believe, a very, very harmful addiction to the human race.
And the big issue was the fact that the new elementary complex is going to be all wireless.
Right.
And there are wireless cell phone towers very close by to that location. And then finally, that Celco is going to be having wireless meters on everyone's house, so they can record your electric use in that way. So I think that group also presented in front of the Celco Commission.
Right.
And I don't think they received much of a favorable reception. In fact, I thought I saw people there with their arms crossed, in fact. Yeah.
I think this is something that has to be studied much with greater care before they do anything of that. Because once they get into it and they discover this is going to be detrimental to the entire population, physically, that's the one, and I want to talk about, there's another side to this too. They may have said, my gosh, we invested all this money and now we've got these physical problems with people, with human beings. We've got problems.
Well, at least the hands-free bill, distracted driving, has finally passed in the
Right.
state legislature, so that is going to be going into effect probably within the next 6 months, that you cannot be texting and driving, being on your phone.
you shouldn't
And
be.
the people, you shouldn't be, and the people that hold the phone up like this when they're driving. So hopefully everyone's going to get an earpiece if they do have to use their whole phone, but you still have the concentration factor to consider.
Then the other side of it, from a learning standpoint, all these electronic devices do not allow students to do things properly with their brains. We have machines that are doing the thinking that young people should be doing. So we have young minds that are not being developed. Students don't, and again, I'm gonna have to talk about mathematics. To understand mathematics, you have to do mathematics. The students are not doing the mathematics using the brain. They're using their fingers doing mathematics. They have no feeling for what the answer represents. They have no feeling for how that answer is generated. And the entire purpose of learning math is to use your brain to develop logical thinking, even if you don't apply that mathematics for the rest of your life. The fact that you have gone through a process of learning whatever topic it is that you learn in mathematics, whether it be knowing how to do long division of whole numbers, learning how to add fractions, know how to convert from decimals to percent to fractions, or fractions to decimals to percent, all of that basic arithmetic develops a logical structure of thinking within the mind, which leads to being a problem solver, and that's what we're looking for. We are taking all of this away from the young people. We are cheating them. And yet, when I look at school committee meetings, everyone is saying, isn't these new devices exciting? I don't see anything exciting about that. I think it is something that's very negative. And yet, I look across the spectrum, it's just not here in Shrewsbury, it is everywhere. And as a teacher, I resist it. I will not. I don't call that credible academics. And I've repeated this before. This is an old song from an old mouth here, but
Well, I literally know people that just stay in their room, on their devices, they get their food delivered, they call up for a delivery for food, they call up for delivery for Amazon, for whatever they need for clothes. They literally don't have to leave the house. They don't have to have a face-to-face conversation with anybody.
what happens to these people?
What kind of generation is this gonna be?
Now we're seeing people that are isolated.
Yeah.
And when they get isolated, they commit all types of terrible, terrible crimes. And we're witnessing more and more of that as time goes on. So are we smart enough as a society to realize the direction that we're going in? And do we have enough courage to put on the red light, the stop sign, and say, enough? We have to turn back and do some things the quote old way. Get out of your house and go to the store and have to interact with people, see your neighbor and say hello to them. And that's it's going to make a big difference.
You ever worried about dressing?
Oh yes, funny you should say that, John. I saw a poster on a school bulletin board, which was entitled "Dress for Success," and it had a picture of a young man and a young lady, very nicely appointed, and they gave several different suggestions for men and women as to what they should address, how they should dress. And here's a few things that you would do when you go for an interview. For women, you should have your hair at shoulder length. You should have minimal makeup. Avoid very dark or very bright types of makeup. You should not have a noisy jewelry on, nothing excessive, nothing gaudy. Minimal perfume or fragrance. You should have a well-tailored suit in the color black, navy, or gray. You should have a neutral hair color. You should have light or clear nail polish. You should have a closed-toe, low-heeled shoes. Very, very specific. And for young men, we should have short hair, and if you have a beard, it has to be very, very neatly trimmed and not very, very lengthy. Short and well-cropped. Avoid bright colors as well. If you're going to have some kind of carry case, have an attaché case or a portfolio. Avoid flashy jewelry, clearly no earrings. If you have shoes that should be polished, clean, you should do not wear any boots.
I'm going to have to interrupt this for the end of the show.
We'll have to go on to this for the next program, John.
We're done. Good night, folks.